Okay, so here's my purpose: to enjoy the life that God gave me with abundant health and abundant joy, to be a role model for my patients and to be a role model for my son. I encourage you to spend some time in the next couple days to come up with your purpose for changing your lifestyle. I'll tell you a little story. It's about two people, one that's driven by pain and pleasure and one that's driven by purpose. And they're both walking down a road. They have a goal of getting to the top of this mountain. Okay? They both want to get to the top of this mountain. And they're walking along the road. The road is nice. It's level. It's even. It's not too bumpy. There's a couple bumps. But the person that's driven by pain and pleasure is like, no, this isn't so bad. The person that's driven by purpose is like, whatever, this is fine. I know I need to get to the top of that mountain. Okay? So as long as the road is fine, they're both walking along just fine. Okay? They come to this raging river. Okay? The person, this is a lot of peace. The person that's driven by pain and pleasure sees this raging river and he says, okay, that looks really cold. Looks pretty wide. Looks like it's moving pretty fast. I really want to get to the top of that mountain, but that's not worth it. I don't want to get wet, I don't want to get cold, I don't want to get swept away. The person that's driven by purpose sees this raging river and they say, okay, that river looks cold, it looks wide, it looks like it's moving really fast. But I know in my soul that I want to get to the top of that mountain. So they'll do whatever it takes. Okay, so they do see this moving kind of fast. So they say, you know, I'm going to go upriver about a mile to where it's not moving quite as fast, and I'm going to cross it there. I'm going to get cold and I'm going to get wet, but I'm going to cross it there. Okay? And even though they're a mile off track, their purpose is their compass. And it points them back on the path they need to do, or they need to get to the top of that mountain. Okay? That's why purpose is very important for getting you where you want. The next most important thing is the nervous system. This is a piece of the puzzle that gets missed in pretty much every lifestyle program I've looked at, but it's foundational. Okay, there's two truths when it comes to your body, and that's the body is self-healing and the body is self-regulating. Okay? The body is self-healing and the body is self-regulating. That's good news, right? It's good news because it means your body's going to respond really well to lifestyle change. There's a caveat. That caveat is that that's all controlled by your nervous system. Okay? And so if there's subluxation, which is nervous system interference, that means that your body isn't going to heal itself as well as it can, it's not going to regulate itself as well as it can, and it's not going to function as well as it can. So what does it mean that it's self-healing? Right? That's just things. So, let's see. So, Julie, if I cut your hand, sorry, it's going to bleed, and then if you keep it relatively clean, in a couple weeks there's just going to be a scar there, right? And from now until a couple weeks from now, you don't have to sit at home at night and say, okay, dang, that cut me, okay, now I'm going to knit some collagen together. And then you can say, okay, shoot, I almost forgot to get some gray scab. Okay. Now I need to turn it purple and pink, and then I need to have a scar around it. It just all happens. It's self-healing. Okay. Our bodies are self-regulating. So if one of us is taking Ambien, and we get up at 2 in the morning and drive to White Castle and do some sleep eating, right? We walk outside in 90-degree weather in our bathrobe. Our body's going to start to produce more heat, right? And it's just going to do that on its own. Or if we walk up a flight of stairs, our body's going to raise our blood pressure to get blood to our brain, okay? And oxygenate our tissues more fully. That just happens on its own, okay? And it's controlled by our nervous system. So interference with the nervous system is bad. Cute little story. A colleague of mine had a patient. She was a 67-year-old woman, and she had been taking the same B vitamin supplement for about 30 years. Anybody ever taken a B vitamin supplement or a multivitamin? Yeah, okay. Turns your pee like bright neon yellow, right? Like if your power went out, it would glow enough to light up the bathroom. Kind of gross like that. Turns your pee very yellow. For those of you who have taken one, it does. So she'd been taking the same supplement for about 30 years. She went to my friend, and he identified some nervous system interference with the nerves going to her stomach. Okay, and so after a few treatments, he was relieving that nerve pressure going to her stomach, and she called in panic. She's like, I'm really nervous because my pee turned really yellow. My friend said not to worry because the vitamin I'm taking is supposed to turn it yellow, but I've been taking it for 30 years, and this is the first time it ever turned yellow. And so when he got those nerves to her stomach functioning better, she was actually able to break down and absorb those vitamins she'd been taking for 30 years, was quite literally she'd flushed thousands of dollars worth of them. Okay? It's actually able to break down her stomach, go into her bloodstream, and actually be used by her body. Okay? That's why this is foundational, because these healthier choices that you're going to be making with, as far as food and exercise are going to be more productive in your body if your nervous system is functioning better. Another quick little example. The way we figure that out, for those of you who haven't had this done, and it's included with your programs, you get one of these scans done. And these scans tell us how your nervous system is functioning at certain levels. This is a story. This is actually a real person, a real patient that I've had the pleasure of being involved with her care, Roxanne. She had full body psoriasis. Does anybody know what psoriasis is? It's itchy, flaky skin over her entire body, meaning like her face, her hair, her back, her legs, everything. Okay, when the scan was taken, she'd just gotten back from the Mayo Clinic, spent about $70,000 out of her own pocket, and they unfortunately weren't able to help her too much besides them just giving her the steroids and the creams that she'd already had. Okay? So this scan showed us that she had interference with the nerves going to her spleen and the nerves going to her gut. There's 4 major players in your immune system, and she has an autoimmune disease. 2 of those major players are being severely interfered with. Okay? I'm sorry, a lot of you guys haven't seen these before. Red is severe interference, green is mild, and blue is moderate. Okay, so she had severe interference, the nerves going to her gut. So we started removing this interference, which we do through chiropractic adjustments in my clinic. Started improving her lifestyle, making it a little bit cleaner. And this is what her scan looked like after we worked with her. So that severe interference is gone, her nerves are functioning better, her body's functioning better, it's able to heal itself and regulate itself better, and the psoriasis is gone. Okay. Not because she came to the right doctor, but because, well, I guess maybe she did, but was able to tell her that her body can heal itself. And that's what happened. It's kind of cool. So that is why I say this is foundational lifestyle change. Next we have balancing hormones. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is actually what we do through our diet. Okay? I'm not going to put any of you on hormone replacement therapy or dealing with. We want to balance our hormones through balancing our diet. Hormones are what determine leanness and fatness. The most important hormone by far, well, so there's half a dozen or so metabolically active hormones: peptide, YY, ghrelin, leptin, cholecystokinin, insulin, etc. Okay? All of those are brought into complete perfect balance if you focus on balancing your insulin. Okay? So if we balance our insulin, we balance all of those metabolic hormones into an optimum level for our genetics, for our hormones, and for our health. Okay? Increased insulin is associated with increased insulin is associated with shortened lifespan, which that's kind of a bummer. It's also associated very, very strongly with obesity and diabetes. Associated also with heart disease, cancer, and stroke. 5 of the 5 top leading disease causes of death in the country. Okay? So by simply focusing on lowering and balancing your insulin, you can decrease your risk of those 5 diseases and your family's risk of those 5 diseases. So it's very important to focus on this. Gary Taubes has been about 7 years researching this. He wrote the book, Good Calories, Bad Calories, and Why We Get Fat. And after those 7 years of researching obesity studies, heart disease studies, etc., he came up with this quote: "It's impossible to get fat without the presence of insulin." Okay? Balancing insulin is the key to balancing hormones and leanness. And this is kind of the kicker for this whole thing. So, carbohydrate drives insulin, insulin drives fat. Where do we get most of our carbohydrates in our diet? From what type of food?
Bread.
Bread, yeah, grains, right? And those were foods that our hunter-gatherer ancestors were never exposed to. Okay? Unfortunately, we are. But we make the choice to stay away from that. We make ourselves a lot healthier automatically. Okay? So there are 3 macronutrients. All right, now we're getting into the scientific junk, but this is just a fancy word that means the largest component of the foods that we eat. Okay, you eat a food, it's got fats, got proteins, got carbohydrates. Those are the macronutrients. It's also got vitamins and minerals and stuff like that. Okay, but we're talking about the macronutrients, the big